Some of it's up in the north. We get a lot of Scots border raids going across the border between England and Scotland at this time. But the Yorkist army in the north was then moving down. Again, as I mentioned, to rendezvous. Now there was a standoff before the battle. Quite a long standoff, in fact. Audley had the bigger army. His army was about twice the size of Salisbury's. However, Audley knew full well that he didn't have particularly experienced troops when compared to his enemy. His enemy was filled with veterans of the 100 Years' War. They had been fighting the Scottish in the north. They fought the first battle of St Albans some 4 years earlier. What Audley had under his command was quite a fair few of the professional retained soldiers. One of the things about the Wars of the Roses is it is a civil war, where both sides would attempt to avoid bloodshed wherever they could, because once you've won that battle, if most of the people around you are dead, you can have death duties and things like that, but generally they're not that responsive. Where before we start having a fight, the UN will sit and send strongly worded letters around to make sure that everything can go peaceful before we hear about the French. Thank you, you're all a wonderful crowd. Exactly what the cannons deliver. And now we put the strongest part of the army out, which is the archers. A good archer can keep 5 arrows in the air at any one time. Now they're shooting in volleys there. When those volleys land, they can be incredibly devastating. With a few choices. You give a good round of applause for the Yorkist archers. They can either stay there and be slowly whittled down. Okay, so now that we've got York retreating, Lancaster are going to capitalise on this. This is an excellent opportunity for them to gain the higher ground and cancel out the advantage that the House of York has got at the moment. And if they can successfully move without a bit of a fight, on the basis that it takes a lot to shift, ordered advance. So as you can see with some of the bill units further down, they're starting to spread out, building a large group of 20. And they've been received by the House of York, who have formed a wedge into them, and they haven't made it to the top of the high ground yet. Now, as you can see, that has pushed Oxford back. This was been used all throughout history, still to some point used ceremonially today, but you listen for the drum beats and it lets you know what you're going to be doing. You also look for the flags. Flags are raised along with certain drum beats to let units know what they're expected to do at any given time, and it's early battlefield communication. Remaining rested. The short battle, forcing Oxford back down the hill. So he's come in, he's given off terms into the parley that are wholly unacceptable. A lot of it. His son is equally the good general as he is. He comes from a strong military family that have been training in the arts of war for years. They know what they're doing. Audley, on the other hand, is the court favourite. We're going to get to that top of that hill because Salisbury is easily waiting for him. First wounded of the battle as they're led off by the Oxfords of the side. Give them a round of applause. And led by Audley himself. Beaufort coming to take on Salisbury. Now, if Beaufort can take Salisbury down, this battle is going to be incredibly short. And the two nobles fighting each other there. Salisbury. Okay, people, cheer for Salisbury. A Neville, a Neville is down. Now, oddly enough, this is the best thing that could have happened to the Lancastrian army. And he's got to react quickly, but he can take the fight back to York. Not retreating. Once again, we have a break in the battle. We have different units from the House of York coming now, but you'll notice that Lancaster is holding their ground. The House of Stafford are their next orders. This flank on my left is proving to be Lancaster's ground. Under the command of the Earl of Oxford, John to the end of Bosworth of 1485 and the Battle of Stoke Field in 1487. John de Vere never changed sides once. The Grand Armoured Wedge, Thomas Stanley household, the Beaufort household, the Oxfords leading the charge. Now once they get up to there, because they're coming up in small numbers at the front, like the French columns did during the Napoleonic Wars, they're going to be able to force their way into that line. Once you're through that line, it gets very easy to fan out around the back and massacre the enemy. York was ready for them, and that is a fierce fight, but I don't imagine that De Vere's going to do anything but go down fighting. He's a good hard fighter, he's been through the 100 Years' War, he knows what to expect, he knows how to get it, he's got no other choice. He was within arrow range, he can't retreat, he's got to take the fight to them and hope he does better this time. Beaufort has stalled Lancaster. The casualties starting to mount at a more alarming of Lancaster than there is in the army of York. And using the same tactic again, the only option that's available to Dudley is to try the same manoeuvre again. He's going to try and get back that high ground, try and break some of those Yorkist bill lines. But they're going up against experienced bill lines, the House of Neville. The reinforcements from the House of Conyers now coming through the back. Well-rested troops. Troops that have all their energy. This is the third engagement the Oxfords have done. This is the first one on the day that the Conyers have been involved in. And the Oxfords are one of the stalwarts of the Lancastrian army. If you shift the Oxfords, people have broken up the cohesion of those lines. Archers beginning to go down. Lancastrian gunners completely off the field. And all the time while he's losing men in these archers are raining more arrows down on him. Oxford Bill group now completely split off. If you look at the Battle of Towton, there was a Lancastrian rout in 25. He might now just be able to defeat this army. He's going to have his work cut out because if he forces them back up the hill, this is going to be an incredibly fierce fight. Now the keynote down here will actually be able to see Lord Dudley fighting the future. Fellas, form your line! On your face!